If you're a Little House on the Prairie fan, you know that there are t-shirts and coffee mugs and even aprons that say, "In a world full of Nellies, be a Laura." I have to share with you why after reading this book by Alison Arngrim. In a world full of Lauras, I'm glad I'm a Nellie. Stay tuned. Salutations and welcome back to the channel. Just the fact that you have clicked on this video for this book review says a little something about you. Most likely, much like me, you grew up watching the TV series Little House on the Prairie. Or perhaps you were gifted a set of the books when you were a child and you read them and they became ingrained in your childhood. That speaks true for me as well. And recently on our journeys, we were able to visit Laura Ingalls Wilder's home in Mansfield, Missouri, where she wrote all of the Little House on the Prairie books. This whetted an appetite for me. I wanted to learn more about Laura, Almanzo, Rose, the entire Ingalls family, but I also branched out to learn more about those who portrayed the roles of the characters in the Little House series on TV. Hence, my current book review, Confessions of a Prairie, beep. See how I've blocked it off here so I don't get in trouble, but it really uses the word. This book was written by Alison Arngrim. She portrayed Nellie Olson in the TV series Little House on the Prairie, and I took it upon myself to find this book. My local library didn't have it. They had to have this one brought in for me so that I could read it and learn a little bit more about Alison and Nellie. So in all truthfulness, I started this delve into biographies of the cast members, starting with Melissa Gilbert's Prairie Tale. Now, I've not done a review on this, and I'm going to be quite honest with you and tell you why. I had a hard time getting through it. I know, right? We love Melissa Gilbert. This is in no way to impugn her work. I relate to Melissa Gilbert, we all do, as Laura Ingalls. And as I read this, it's that harsh reality that we all come to, that she's not Laura Ingalls, she's Melissa Gilbert. And I just had a hard time disconnecting the two. And after getting about halfway through the book, I took it back to the library and I decided to move on to something else. It was then that I discovered Alison Arngrim's book, Confessions of a Prairie Bleep. And I thought, oh, that might be interesting. I might want to read that and see what this is about. So I've got to tell you, 100% true, I finished this book in 2 days. This book I found gripping. I was invested in Alison's story. I was invested in everything she shares with us, from her early childhood, adolescence, her teen years, becoming an adult, and learning to embrace Nellie, a character that everyone seems to hate. Now, just as I had a difficult time separating the two here, the real Melissa and the character of Laura, we learn in Alison's book the difficulty that she endures growing up in a world that has a hard time separating Nellie from Alison. Where this would break most of us down, Alison embraces it. She feeds off of it. It becomes her fuel. She turns what could be a very negative situation in her life into fuel. And it becomes a part of her persona. If it hadn't already been part of her persona, I think this is part of the whole enigma of the Nellie and Alison journey that she goes on. I want you to think for a moment. I belong to several groups on Facebook that are Little House on the Prairie fans. And it's very disheartening to read so many comments about how much certain characters are disliked. And sometimes I see very discouraging comments and posts, and I think, wonder what that person thinks when they read these things that are being said about them. I know what Alison thinks based on what she has shared with us in this book. I've seen some videos that Alison's put out. She seems like a really wonderful person. And after reading this, I realized that in a world full of Lauras, I more relate to being a Nellie. Let me share with you just what's written on the inside cover. We'll go over just a little bit of what's shared in the book. I'm not going to give you too many details because you need to read this book for yourself. But let me just share with you what the inside cover says. Alison Arngrim, Confessions of a Prairie Bleep, How I Survived Nellie Olson and Learned to Love Being Hated. For 7 years, Alison Arngrim played a wretched, scheming, selfish, lying, manipulative brat on one of TV history's most beloved series. Though millions of Little House on the Prairie viewers hated Nellie Olson and her evil antics, Arngrim grew to love her character and the freedom and confidence Nellie inspired in her. In Confessions of a Prairie Bleep, Arngrim describes growing up in Hollywood with her eccentric parents, Thor Ingram, a talent manager to Liberace and others whose appetite for publicity was insatiable, and legendary voice actress Norma McMillan, who played both Gumby and Casper the Friendly Ghost. She recalls her most cherished and often wickedly funny moments behind the scenes of Little House. Michael Landon's unsaintly habit of not wearing underwear. How many of you knew that? How she and Melissa Gilbert, who played her TV nemesis Laura Ingalls, became best friends and accidentally got drunk on rum cakes at 7-Eleven. And the only time she and Catherine McGregor, who plays Nellie's mom, appeared in public in costume, provoking a posse of elementary schoolgirls to attack them. Can you imagine? Arngrim relays all this and more with biting wit. I can attest to that. But she also bravely recounts her life's challenges, her struggle to survive a history of traumatic abuse, depression, and paralyzing shyness. The secret her father kept from her for over 20 years, and the devastating loss of her Little House husband and best friend, Steve Tracy, to AIDS, which inspired her second career in social and political activism. Arngrim describes how Nellie Olson taught her to be bold, daring, and determined, and how she is eternally grateful to have had the biggest little bee on the prairie to show her the way. And I agree with everything that is shared on the jacket of this book. Now, I do want to warn you when you read it. Now, like I said, I finished it in 2 days. There was something about it that just drew me to Alison, drew me to her experiences when she was growing up in Southern California, as I did. And I want to warn you, though, there are some triggers in this book. It says inside the jacket that she discusses some of her abuses in life. They're triggers. So be aware of that if you choose to read this book, but know this. Through the triggers, if you can get past the trigger, there is so much wisdom here, so much insight, so much that so many of us can relate to. And it is actually very healing. It's very cathartic. And I thank Alison for approaching these subjects. These are subjects that just until recently, many didn't discuss. And this book was released long before our current temperature of things with regards to certain types of abuse in our culture right now. So it was very brave of her to bring this to light, to discuss it openly, and to share this part of herself with us, all of us who love Little House on the Prairie. She manages to work past all of the stigma of not only knowing, but having such a deep love for someone who's been diagnosed with AIDS. And she becomes a lifeline for that individual, as is discussed in the jacket here, her on-screen husband. And so many beautiful, beautiful things that she writes about him and their friendship and their relationship. I can't recommend this book enough. I really, truly enjoyed reading it. I'm hoping to give Prairie Tale by Melissa Gilbert another chance. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I read a book, if I'm not in the right mindset, I don't digest it well. So I'm going to give this one another try. However, I don't hesitate at all recommending this book here by Alison Arngrim, Confessions of a Prairie Bee, How I Survived Nellie Olson and Learned to Love Being Hated. Find it, either buy it. Maybe you'll get a chance to go to one of her appearances, get a copy and have it signed. I just missed seeing her by 1 week. 1 week. I would have really loved to have had the opportunity to meet Alison and get a signed copy from her. Wink, wink. Alison, if you ever see this, my contact information's in my about for my YouTube channel. I'd love to get a book from you signed. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I've got so many really unique books from Laura, nothing from Melissa, but I would love to add to my collection and have a signed copy of your book. Notice I'm doing everything but grovel. So if you get an opportunity, I highly recommend this book. So having said that, thank you, Alison, for sharing your story with us. Thank you for all of the many readers who have given her support throughout the years. Those who have determined that Alison is not Nellie, even though in a sense she is, and Nellie made her stronger. She is her own unique individual to be celebrated and loved and appreciated. And I know that after reading this book, I certainly do on a much deeper level than I ever imagined. So if you get a chance, read the book. Make sure you thank Alison for sharing her story with us. And I will see you next time here on the channel when we review another book or maybe do a recipe, or who knows what I'm going to be up to next. So until I see you again, be sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, have a blessed day, and just know it's okay to be a Nellie every once in a while. Bye, guys.